This is the College Football Countdown to Kickoff Show, powered by Calvi Electric on 97.3 ESPN, with your host, Nick Kosko. We're taking you up to the kickoff of Rutgers football. Now, live inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, here's Nick Kosko.
Oh, yeah. College Football Countdown and Kickoff Show, powered by Calvi Electric. I'm your host, Nick Kosko, leading you up to Rutgers-Ohio State. Kickoff at 3:30 p.m. And it's a wet one out there today. Got a lot to get into. We will preview the game. As well, we'll dive into a little bit of other college football going on in the meantime as well. But for now, we'll stick with Rutgers at the moment. They had a nice win last weekend over Texas State. Now, you may be thinking, Texas State, who? I know, they were 2-10 last year. Don't worry. It was a solid win for the Scarlet Knights at home in Piscataway. They won 35-7. True freshman Artur Sikowski looked good. A couple turnovers, but hey, 18-year-olds will make mistakes. Run game was there. For you South Jersey folk out there, Isaiah Pacheco of Vineland led the team in rushing last week, had over 76 yards. Off 9 or 10 carries, something like that. It was mostly in garbage time. The guy was tearing it up. I'll tell you what, he is huge. If you Vineland folks remember, the guy was a dual-threat quarterback in high school, brought him in as a running back in college, put on about 20 pounds of muscle. That is a lot for a freshman. I'll tell you what, I think he's going to be heavy in the rotation today. They're going to use guys like Jonathan Hillman, the grad transfer from Boston College. They'll use Raheem Blackshear, the sophomore. More of a scat back, change of pace guy, but he's one of their best offensive weapons, and they're going to throw Pacheco in there. They want to shoulder the load on the running game and this offensive line against Ohio State today. Ohio State has some big boys. If you're Rutgers and you're going up against Ohio State, you do not, I repeat, you do not want to fall behind early. Rutgers is a 34.5 point underdog today. If you're a betting man, stay away from this game. Although I will say, I would take Rutgers today. I think they are going to cover that, and I'll reveal more about that later. But for the Scarlet Knights, you need to progress more. This is Chris Ash's third season at the helm. Now, is it a little brutal that you get Ohio State week 2? You get Texas State, then at Ohio State, and then you play Kansas and Buffalo the next 2 weeks. Brutal job by the schedule makers, but hey, you get arguably your toughest Big Ten game out of the way early, and it's on the road. One less road game to worry about. I know if you're Rutgers, you're throwing your true freshman quarterback out there into the wolves. Tough deal. It really is. I would not want to be an 18-year-old quarterback in Columbus, Ohio right now, going against Ohio State. It's going to be a tough challenge. The biggest thing I'm looking for today from Rutgers, you need to see progress. You need to see some scoring. Competitiveness. A 55-0 loss today for the Scarlet Knights is unacceptable. You can't have it happen again. I get Ohio State is number 4 in the country right now, and Rutgers is only a 1-0 team beating Texas State and is still picked by most to finish second to last or last in the Big Ten. This is an improved football team. You people will see that throughout the season. Just not this week. Ohio State is that good. Now, Rutgers needs to stop Dwayne Haskins from the defensive side. Dwayne Haskins could be the next, or even better than, J.T. Barrett. Mike Weber, J.K. Dobbins running the football back there. Rutgers has struggled more to stop the run than they have the pass in all these games against these big Big Ten opponents. If they can limit those two running backs, make Ohio State one-dimensional, they might have a shot to keep it close early on. But Rutgers going into this game without their top defensive back, Blaswan Austin, and likely without their starting safety, Kai Hester, it's going to be a tough day. They need to come out swinging. I hate to say take offense first, because I'm a firm believer if you win the coin toss to take defense first. Rutgers might need to take offense today. Go first. Show what Sikowski can do. Get him right in there. Try to at least get 3 points on the board. Show Ohio State you're not backing down today. We could see a close contest early on, but it's gonna be a tough one. Other stuff I wanted to get into today. We got James Kratch joining us in a little bit of NJ.com. He'll be live at the game between Rutgers and Ohio State. The Big Ten as a whole, I'm looking at last week. Penn State and Michigan State escaping with wins. Penn State barely scraped by Appalachian State. Michigan State barely over Utah State. And I'll get into Michigan State more later when I do my picks later. I can't buy into them right now. I can't buy into either team right now. Penn State, I think, is a better team than Michigan State because they still have Trace McSorley, but I really think the loss of Saquon Barkley at running back is a huge loss. You don't replace a guy like Saquon Barkley that easily. As far as the rest of the teams, the big dogs, Wisconsin, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Michigan State, and of course only Wisconsin's in the other division. I was going to say before, Wisconsin are they overrated at number 5? But they are starting to get their footing against New Mexico right now. They were up 10-7, and New Mexico had gotten the ball back. And all of a sudden, now I look at the scoreboard, with about 6.5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, Wisconsin's up 38-14. I think Wisconsin's fine. You got Jonathan Taylor at running back, Heisman candidate, Alex Hornibrook, a pretty good quarterback. Wisconsin's going to be firmly in the playoff picture come season's end because they're going to be in contention for a Big Ten title. Nobody in that division in the Big Ten West is taking out Wisconsin. I cannot see it. Michigan, I really, really wanted to roast Jim Harbaugh today. I really did. I probably still will, as I told Josh before. 9-9 in their last 18 games. Jim Harbaugh right now is in Brady Hoke territory. That's not an overreaction. 9-9 is unacceptable if you're Jim Harbaugh, of how good you've been in college, how good you were in the pros. I don't care what happened with management with the 49ers. The guy was a good NFL head coach. The loss last week to Notre Dame, I get it was at Notre Dame, but it's still unacceptable. At this point for Michigan, this is what, year 4 of now, Jim Harbaugh? You have to get somewhere. You have not beaten Ohio State. You have not beaten Michigan State. You haven't won the Big Ten title. You're not in the college football playoff. You have to do it this year. Notre Dame, a non-conference loss, so you could probably avoid it. You'll probably be okay. But I don't get it. Jim Harbaugh, you need to be better. You really do. You have Shea Patterson now as your transfer quarterback. You brought him in for a reason. Use him right. And I guess they are using him right today because they're up 42-0 on Western Michigan. So I guess Jim Harbaugh predicted what I was going to say this afternoon. But again, it's Western Michigan. Is Michigan a little bit low right now at 21 overall in the country? Might be about right. They have SMU coming up next week. Then the conference play starts. I think they're going to beat Nebraska. They'll beat I don't know about Northwestern on the road. Nebraska has Scott Frost as head coach now, so I can't even be sure about that either. But it's at home. I'll take him over Nebraska. At Northwestern, I don't know. Then you have Maryland, but then Wisconsin, Michigan State, Penn State, all in a row. 2 are at home, 1's on the road. That's the meat of the season right there for Jim Harbaugh. That's going to make or break Michigan. Wisconsin, Michigan State, Penn State. Just like that. That's what's going to happen. That will make or break Jim Harbaugh. Wanted to go over Alabama too, but what are you going to say? They killed Louisville last week. They have 2 good quarterbacks. Nick Saban can do whatever the heck he wants. Until somebody beats Alabama badly, national champion this year. National champion next year. National champion the year after that. Alabama's that good. We'll have James Kratch of NJ.com on the other side here on the College Football Countdown to Kickoff show, powered by Calvi Electric. We'll discuss some Rutgers-Ohio State, also discuss some Big Ten football and some other things around the college football landscape. For now, we'll step aside. We'll take a quick break. James Kratch on the other side, listening to the College Football Countdown to Kickoff show, powered by Calvi Electric, right here on 97.3 ESPN.
This is the College Football Countdown to Kickoff Show, powered by Calvi Electric on 97.3 ESPN.
Welcome back to the College Football Countdown to Kickoff Show, powered by Calvi Electric. Pleased to welcome it now, NJ.com's own James Kratch, who's on scene from Columbus, Ohio, getting ready for Rutgers-Ohio State. James, how are you?
I'm excellent, Nick. It's rainy here. Hopefully it's a little bit drier back home.
It's not really that much better last night. We had a big high school football show last night, and we had a bunch of postponements and cancellations, delays, you name it. I've never seen so much weather craze last night.
Oof. That's always rough. The first I remember one time when I was still covering high schools for NJ.com, I had like 3 games in a row. I think I was in the parking lot at 3 different high schools. Finally, Hillsborough and Phillipsburg kicked off at like 9:40 at night. I was on the opening Friday night, so able to cover that game. It can be rough sometimes.
Yeah, without a doubt. All right, let's get right into it. So Rutgers won last week over Texas State. They're taking on Ohio State today. Not the best matchup on paper, to say the least. Ohio State notorious for blowing out the Scarlet Knights in the past 4 years. Is this year any type of different for the Scarlet Knights because they have a new quarterback in Sikowski? It's Chris Ash's 3rd year. It seems like it's an improved team overall, but are we expecting more of the same again today?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are. I think it's kind of an unfortunate scheduling quirk for Rutgers because they're basically going from 0 to 100 in a week. You know, and the old football cliche is the most progress the team makes is from week 1 to week 2. I would have been intrigued to see what Rutgers could have done if they were playing Indiana this week or Buffalo or Illinois, like someone who's better than Texas State but not quite Ohio State. That being said, I think it's year 3 for Chris Ash. Obviously, the past few years have been very ugly against the Buckeyes. I don't think anyone thinks Rutgers is going to make this a game today, but it is a measuring stick. When you lose 58-0 and 56-0 in your last 2 games against a team, if you can come out and keep them under 50 and score some points yourself, then that's going to be a sign of, hey, this program is making progress. Maybe not enough progress for anyone across the nation to really take notice, but it can tell the fans and the recruits and the people inside the program, hey, we are moving forward with this thing.
So one of the big themes with the Scarlet Knights, as people have talked about in the past couple of years, each year for Chris Ash, it's progress, progress, progress. So they went from 2 wins to 4 wins, and now they already have their first win of the season this year, maybe looking at 5, 6, maybe even 7 wins this year, depending upon how the schedule plays out. So, but one of the big things that's measuring, and part of the measuring stick of progress for the Scarlet Knights, it's the offense. The offense has been dormant the past couple of years. Nobody at the quarterback position. Sikowski's in now. He provides more of that pro-style passer. Is this really a good game to measure how far along the offense has come, or is Ohio State just too good to really measure any sort of progress today?
I think it depends on what the offense shows. I mean, if Art goes out there and has a solid game for a true freshman and they score 2-3 touchdowns, I think people go, hey, maybe this offense is a chance to really make strides. But then again, at the same time, I think you can't read too much into, if Rutgers gets shut out again or gets held to a field goal. I wouldn't hit the panic button just yet. Again, it's a tough matchup for Rutgers, but also it's a, kind of throw this young offense, this young quarterback, throw him into the deep end. Just a second career start, see how he handles all this. I mean, it can be a productive learning experience, I think, for Art and the offense and for the program as a whole. I just think it's going to be, it's one of those things where you really won't be able to put it into context, I think, until the game's over and you can assess, okay, what did Rutgers do? How lopsided was the game? Did Rutgers get out healthy? Because that's the big thing. I think we'll talk about this later. The health is key because after this, you start that stretch of the season where it's really going to define whether or not this team does take that next step and get to 6 wins and go to a bowl game.
So the offense is where Rutgers needs to improve mostly. The defensive side, they looked pretty good last week, albeit it was Texas State. But there's question marks now at the defense with the health of Bliswan Austin, and there's other guys that are game time decisions today. What can Rutgers do today to slow down Ohio State at least a little bit? And are they going to really be able to slow down the passing game without Austin?
Yeah, I think the big key is going to be, can they generate a pass rush? Obviously, they had a little bit of a pass rush last week against Texas State, a lot of stunts and blitzes from the second and third levels. Obviously, this Ohio State offensive line is vastly superior to what Texas State had on the field. And you're right, you're not going to have Austin. My guess is that I think you're not going to see much of Kai Hester, if at all. He's a game-time decision along with Trey Avery. I do think there's a good chance Trey Avery will play. I think they're going to need him. Obviously, Avery Young, true freshman, is going to start in place of Austin. Those guys, yes, it's a very tough matchup for those in the secondary, but it becomes an almost impossible matchup, in my opinion, if there's no push up front. They really need that pass rush to materialize. I don't expect Rutgers to have the same success against Ohio State that they had against Texas State, but they need to get some sort of push on Dwayne Haskins. Otherwise, I think it could get really ugly really quickly.
Now, speaking of Dwayne Haskins, I want to focus on Ohio State a little bit for our listening audience. He is really good, and some people have said he might have a higher ceiling than J.T. Barrett, and we all know how good J.T. Barrett was with this Ohio State program. Is Haskins actually that good? Is he actually better than J.T. Barrett?
I don't want to go that far yet, but his first real serious action was obviously against Michigan last year when J.T. Barrett got injured. He's Ohio State quarterback. He won the Michigan game, so you can't really go much higher than that if you're an Ohio State quarterback. Throws for over 300 yards, 5 touchdowns against Oregon State. And look, Oregon State's not a very good football team. I think there's a good chance Rutgers would beat Oregon State if the two teams met. But I think the big key, what I'm looking for with Haskins is he didn't run at all, really, against Oregon State. Athletically, he has the capability to be a dual threat. So I'm intrigued to see, is that the way Ohio State's offense is going to operate this going forward? Just throw the ball. I think he's clearly a better passer than J.T. Barrett. Or eventually, as they kind of ease into the season, expand the playbook, are you going to start to see him play like that dual threat J.T. Barrett was? Because if he starts running the ball and gives that added, element to the Ohio State offense, they could be downright lethal. I mean, they put 77 points on the board last week. There's a very good chance this offense is better than the one last year that won the Big Ten. I think that had to scare a lot of teams in the conference.
One last thing on this game. Best case scenario for Rutgers today. I mean, I really cannot pick the monumental upset today. There's just too much going against them. They're on the road. Ohio State is this good, and it seems too early in the season for Rutgers to really knock off one of these top teams. But when you look at this game today, your best case scenario for the Scarlet Knights, aside from pulling off a monumental upset?
Cover the spread. I guess we can talk about that now that it's legal in New Jersey. I think Rutgers is a 35, 36-point dog in most places. Look, I think if Rutgers keeps Ohio State under 50 points, keeps the margin of defeat, I think, around 30 points, and they actually score points for the first time in 3 years against the Buckeyes, and they get out healthy, I think that's a pretty successful day across the board for Rutgers. What I'm intrigued to see is how long, can Rutgers kind of stay in the fight? Can they last a half with the Buckeyes? Can they take the game, close? When I say close, I mean, can it be, a 10 to 14-point game into the third quarter? At what point does Ohio State kind of lean on Rutgers and pull away? If it's in the second half, I think Rutgers can say, hey, we've accomplished something. We showed that we're making progress. If they're down 21-0 8 minutes in, I think it's going to be a really alarming situation for Rutgers.
Let's switch over to the gear of off the field a little bit. Urban Meyer obviously was in the news a lot for Ohio State due to his whole situation. He's back with the team now at practice. He's not coaching today against Rutgers, but he's around the program again. Don't you think it's a little too soon for that? And how is Ohio State as a whole, you think, adjusting to the fact that Urban Meyer is not going to be on the sideline for the first 3 games, but then he will be back eventually?
Yeah, I think that if you're going to suspend someone, they should actually be suspended. I don't really see the importance in having a coach view the team the whole time. And in many ways, I think some of these coaches would argue that the least important aspect of their week is like the in-game, planning and strategy and all that. And I just think that obviously Ohio State has so much talent, and they're not going to really miss a beat because he's not on the sideline on Saturday. And beyond that, I mean, I'm sure he can still call recruits and everything and follow those rules. So I think if you're going to suspend a guy, suspend him. Don't do it. And Rutgers has done this in the past with Kyle Flood. Don't let the coach the team all the way up to game day. I just think that's pointless. But, no, I don't think it's really have much of an impact at all on Ohio State just because they've shown that they can win a game like this. I mean, they beat up Oregon State last week without him. Obviously, they've had him in the room. That they didn't have him kind of game planning before they played the Beavers. And you still have Greg Schiano, you still have Kevin Wilson. You have head coaching experience on that staff. I think it's a situation that Ohio State can easily overcome on game days, which I just think makes this even more of a farce, the whole situation with how it's been handled with Urban Meyer.
As far as other coaches are concerned in the Big Ten, over to their big-time rival, Michigan, Jim Harbaugh, 9-9 in his last 18 games. They lost to Notre Dame last week. It just seems like every year people want to say, all right, this is the year Jim Harbaugh brings Michigan to the promised land. They're going to the college football playoff. They might win a national title this year. They're going to beat Ohio State finally. Why has it taken so long for Jim Harbaugh to adjust to Michigan? And do you really expect to see any more improvement out of this program? Could he actually be on the hot seat?
I don't think he's on the hot seat just because if Jim Harbaugh can't get it done at Michigan, then I think Michigan needs to have a serious look in the mirror and wonder, are they still going to be a top tier? When I say top tier, I mean, obviously Michigan is Michigan, but, there's that upper, there's that Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State tier. And if Jim Harbaugh can't get Michigan into that, upper echelon, I think Michigan has to sit there and think to themselves, maybe we just can't get there at this point in time. Look, Michigan still controls its own destiny. They could still go to the playoff because I don't think a opening loss at Notre Dame is going to kill them if they were to win out or win the Big Ten. But that being said, I just think the problem is that Jim Harbaugh was kind of such a force of nature when he blew into Michigan, kind of turned college football upside down. And, you got to back that up at some point. He hasn't done that yet. And I think it's, losing at Notre Dame by a touchdown, there's no shame in that. But at the same time, Jim Harbaugh has really not won a big game or a game that truly mattered since he got to Michigan. And I think at some point, it's put up or shut up time for Jim. I think at this point he lost Notre Dame. The way I look at it is if he wants to take some of this pressure off him, he's got to beat Michigan State. He's got to beat Ohio State this year. And I don't think he's going to do either of those things. I don't think he's on a hot seat just because I don't think Michigan would necessarily fire him at this point. He's owed a lot of money. And I look to the NFL. I don't really see a job that would be an ideal fit for Jim Harbaugh at this point. I thought this past coaching cycle in the NFL, when the Giants' job was open, and obviously before the Jets committed to Todd Bowles, that job was in the mix. Chicago, the Bears, Mitch Trubisky. I think at this point, the Colts being open, I don't think Jim Harbaugh is going back to the NFL unless he has a guaranteed, franchise quarterback already in place or a high draft pick to take that guy. And I just don't see a situation like that. And obviously, the NFL, anything can change on a dime. But looking at what I expect to be kind of the landscape going into 2019 in the NFL, I don't really see a perfect landing spot for Harbaugh, which makes me think he'll be at Michigan basically no matter what next year.
James Kratch of NJ.com joining us. James, one more for you. I have to ask you, your biggest takeaway and or surprise from the week one of the college football season?
My biggest takeaway, I think I was very impressed by what Iowa did to Northern Illinois. I think Northern Illinois is a 10-win team that probably is going to win the MAC, and they really physically handled them to get Kirk Ferentz, to become the all-time winningest coach at Iowa. Iowa's a big game, I think, against Iowa State today, obviously. That's to be critical. If they play the way they did against Northern, I think they're going to beat Iowa State pretty handily, which is a good team from the Big 12. I picked Iowa to win the Big Ten West coming into the season just because I thought the schedule matched up well. But the way they played against Northern Illinois, and if they continue to play that way against Iowa State, I think there's a really great chance that when they play Wisconsin in Iowa City in a couple weeks, that could be one of the games of the year in college football, just because I think Iowa might be a little bit better than even I thought they were. And my other big thing is just, some of these teams like Texas, Miami, Florida State, wildly overrated coming into the year. And I think that LSU particularly wasn't a great game, but they showed some signs of life on offense, and Joe Burrow played pretty well. If that LSU team can have a consistent offense, they have a chance to be a contender in the SEC and make things really interesting with Alabama and Auburn and Georgia.
James, great stuff as always. Appreciate you coming on this afternoon, and we'll see if Rutgers can actually come close to Ohio State this afternoon as well.
We will see. Anytime, Nick. Thank you.
All right, it's James Kratch of NJ.com joining us here on the College Football Countdown to Kickoff show presented by Calvi Electric. We'll take a quick break. On the other side, we got picks for the Big Ten and, of course, my Rutgers pick. Rutgers fans, you might not like it. Stick around. Listening to the College Football Countdown to Kickoff show powered by Calvi Electric on 97.3 ESPN.
This is the College Football Countdown to Kickoff Show, powered by Calvi Electric on 97.3 ESPN.
All right, final few minutes of the College Football Countdown to Kickoff Show, powered by Calvi Electric. Got some picks for you. Take you up to Rutgers football. They're taking on Ohio State this afternoon. Kickoff at 3:30. Got a few more minutes to play with, and before I get to my Rutgers pick, I'll go down the list here of what I think is going to happen today. And no, folks, I did not predict these games that well, nor did I cheat, because some of these picks were on here, even though these were noon games. But I'll tell you what I thought anyway. I did pick Wisconsin over New Mexico. And yes, I did get worried a little bit that New Mexico was keeping it close. Trust me, I think you would have all picked Wisconsin over New Mexico as well. Josh is in the studio doing his work over there, and he also raised his hand. Michigan over Western Michigan, fairly obvious as well, and they are throttling them right now as well. I don't even think it's a contest right now. Last I checked, it was 42-0. Trying to get an update on it. Let's see the scoreboard here. I'm waiting for it to pop up. Oh, my God, it's 49-0. Jim Harbaugh heard me. Hopefully he gets it together, because what he's done with that Michigan program, not really that impressed. And please don't bring up the fact that they beat Rutgers 78-0 the other year. I got Northwestern over Duke. I believe that game is actually in progress right now. If I could find that one. I'm pretty sure Duke was beating them at one point. They still are, I believe. Yes, they are. Look at that, 21-7, Duke over Northwestern. So, yes, I did pick Northwestern, and that game is under 2 minutes to go, so it looks like I'm going to lose that one. I actually picked Eastern Michigan over Purdue, and Purdue has a 1-point lead right now with 6:41 to go in the game. Eastern Michigan is just somehow, they're able to win. I don't know how. They just win these weird games. You could tell me Rutgers stinks and that Eastern Michigan beat Rutgers last year. That was a bad game by Rutgers. But that's what I mean. A game Rutgers should have throttled another team, and Eastern Michigan comes out on top. I have Nebraska over Colorado. That game's going to kick off soon at 3:30. I do like Scott Frost, the head coach. Obviously, he did great things with Central Florida. They'll take on Colorado at home. I have Nebraska home opener, Scott Frost era opener. Give me the Cornhuskers. Shout out to Pete Thompson for that one as well. Iowa over Iowa State. Iowa's at home. Otherwise, I might actually consider picking Iowa State. I think Iowa is actually pretty good at home. That's a very tough place to play. See Penn State the other year. Kirk Ferentz, great head coach. Great coach of that program. And you got to love the traditional wave over to the Children's Hospital that Iowa does during their home games. I have Maryland over Bowling Green on the road. Fairly easy there. I'll take Virginia to knock off Indiana in Indiana. I think Indiana is one of those Big Ten teams that's kind of solid, where they can go toe-to-toe with an Ohio State or Michigan State, and then all of a sudden they lose to a team like Illinois. Not that they did, but that's the type of team they are. They play down to their competition, play up to the competition. But I'll take them. I'll take Virginia over Indiana this time. Not taking Indiana. I just have a bad feeling today. I will take Lovie Smith in Illinois, the worst team in the Big Ten. They're at home against Western Illinois. I will pick the Fighting Illini to win tonight. 7:30 is that game. I'll go Minnesota at home over Fresno State. I would love to pick Pittsburgh over Penn State because that's an interesting rivalry. And for some reason, Pittsburgh always plays Penn State very well. I just mentioned before, Penn State is probably not as good this year without Saquon Barkley, with just Trace McSorley running the show. But I'm going to pick Penn State on the road. I think it's too early for one of those types of losses for a team like Penn State if they suffer one of those types of losses. So I'll take the Nittany Lions for you Philly folks out here who root for Penn State. I got them over Pittsburgh. The final Big Ten game I'll get to before I reveal my Rutgers pick, I'm going to pick the upset, just like our good buddy Josh Hennig said before. I am going to take Arizona State at home over Michigan State. Michigan State ranked in the top 15, but Arizona State just a tricky place to play. But I feel like the fact that I'm picking Arizona State and the fact that everybody and their mothers are picking Arizona State because they're the hot commodity right now for an upset, you know Michigan State is going to win, 35-10. I don't think so. Arizona State is going to win, in my opinion at least. But it's one of those picks where you feel so confident, but then in the back of your head you're like, well, I have a very bad feeling about this because everyone's picking this way. Generally, when everybody picks one way in these types of games, it goes the other way. But I will stick with Arizona State to go 2-0 and knock off Michigan State. And now for my Rutgers pick in these final few minutes, I am, of course, not going to pick Rutgers today. I'm picking Ohio State. As much as I would love to see my great school that hosts the Scarlet Knights take down big bad Ohio State, it's just not happening. I'm going to say 45-20 Ohio State. I'm actually being a little generous with the score for the Scarlet Knights, give them a little more points than I probably think they're going to score. But I think if Sikowski gets going early, as I mentioned before, if Rutgers takes the ball first, there might be a chance to keep this competitive. Now, is getting blown out by 25 points that much of a competitive game? Well, in Rutgers' case against Ohio State, yes, when you've lost by 50-plus points to them 2 times in a row. So I would say that it's a step forward. I think there are some chances today for the Scarlet Knights to get some positives out of today and take it on the road at Kansas next week, which is a sneaky trap game, by the way. I don't care how bad Kansas is. Going on the road week 3 after playing Ohio State, you might feel better about yourself next week, but it's a sneaky trap game before they come back home and play Buffalo. A sneaky good Buffalo team, by the way. But I will pick Ohio State. I think Sikowski is going to look okay today. There might be moments where Rutgers fans and even other college football fans say, hey, Rutgers is a pretty good quarterback. Then you're going to see the freshman mistakes where he's going to throw into triple coverage, and there's going to probably be a pick 6 today. That was the only way Texas State scored last week, was based on a pick 6. Otherwise, the defense pitched a shutout for Rutgers. The defense will not pitch a shutout today for Rutgers. I think Dwayne Haskins is just a little too much. Just based on what I'm reading and what I'm hearing, I think Dwayne Haskins could be just as good, if not a little bit better than JT Barrett when it's all said and done in his college career at Ohio State. He's good. He's a good thrower of the football. He might be a better thrower already, just a pure thrower of the football than JT Barrett. And then when you have a two-headed monster at running back with Mike Weber and J.K. Dobbins, God bless the Rutgers defense. You're going to have a long day. Guys to watch out for, South Jersey folks. Isaiah Pacheco at running back for the Scarlet Knights out of Vineland. Don't forget to look out for Bo Melton, who I believe had more catches last week in one game than he did all season last year. So a step in the right direction for Rutgers' #1 wide receiver, Bo Melton, out of Cedar Creek High School down here in South Jersey. So like I said, Ohio State today, 45-20 over Rutgers. That's my pick. Man. I'm trying to give you guys a solid prediction for Rutgers, for at least the Rutgers fans that are listening. I will say, bold prediction. Artur Sikowski, Rutgers quarterback. I say Rutgers, if they, on their first possession, first or second play, offensive coordinator John McNulty is going to go deep. They are going to test that secondary early on. Bold prediction, Sikowski throws 2 touchdowns and only 1 interception today. I think it's a fair prediction. I think he can look good today, but that completion percentage is going to go way down. Ohio State, just too good. As far as the Rutgers defense, I got to say, can they do something against the Ohio State offense? Maybe in the beginning. A couple of those flashy plays, but with no Blisswan Austin and Kai Hester status up in the air, he's on the field right now, so we'll see if he plays today. But, I don't know. Without Austin, their best defensive back, who's an NFL-worthy defensive back, it's going to be tough defending Ohio State today. That's going to do it for me. I want to thank James Kratch of NJ.com for giving us a few minutes today. Don't think Rutgers are going to win today, unfortunately. I want to thank our good sponsor, Calvi Electric, for getting this show rolling. We will see you next week when Rutgers takes on Kansas. Let's see if they can keep it close today. I'm your host, Nick Kosko. You're listening to the College Football Countdown to Kickoff show powered by Calvi Electric here on 97.3 ESPN.